Hi everyone, and welcome along to TTR, the original show for today. Let me just check we're on Zoom and YouTube. Let me just do that so it doesn't go crazy. Hi everyone, welcome along. We are online for TTR on the 26th of July 2020. Great to have your company, guys, and good to see the room packing up already. I'm just going to have a look and see in the attendees whether we have got Alexis. I know I've got Ash, and I know I've got Jeff looking for Alexis to be in reasonably soon as well. I do presume that somebody has done the decent thing and given her the link for the show. Can't see her in here just yet. Switching not far away. Ash, how are you, mate? How was your week away?
It's been really nice, mate. Really nice. I've spent the week pretty much at the beach. It's been decent weather. Yesterday was not so good, but actually Monday to Thursday was what was yesterday? It was Saturday. Monday to Friday was amazing. So I've had a great time, I have to say.
Hey, Jeff, welcome in, mate. I'll be trying to get on the camera as well. I am on my desktop right now. There's a couple of other issues. I don't have a camera on my desktop, but I will get on there as well. Welcome in, mate. How you doing?
Yeah, mate, I'm okay. Enjoying the weekend, I've got to say, but nothing to grumble about, I suppose. Everything's okay.
Nice, mate. Hey, Ash, when you have a week away from the markets, do you miss them, or do you just enjoy having a break?
I enjoy having it. I mean, I suppose it depends what you're doing, but I stayed in touch with things. Well, it's interesting, isn't it? I don't think I missed the markets, but I missed the opportunity. And actually, last week was quite a nice opportunity for what I was looking for. So I am a little bit perturbed that I kind of I was waiting for something that to happen, and it did happen on the week that I was away. But I don't miss. I didn't. I actually really. Appreciated just having some headspace, and I can come back fresh and not have just an accumulation of everything just building up. It's quite nice to just have a proper break away. So I think it's really important, just really important to recalibrate sometimes. So I enjoyed that part of it.
Yeah, man, I'm sort of with you on that. I tend to like when I get a chance to have a break, I like to have a proper break, and I'm away for a week and a couple of weeks, and I don't think I'll probably have someone keeping an eye on some positions for me, but whether I'll actively trade them while I'm away, I think it's a little bit less likely for me. I do like the break. I do like when I'm trading. I like to be quite intense and quite focused, and it means when I'm away, I like to have a good old fashioned proper break.
Yeah. Do you know what the other thing? Just to touch on it, just with one other thing. One thing that a break actually does for you is allow you to see maybe what's more important with what you should be trading as well. So it is a break, but it's also a bit of a clearing out of some of the noise, because there's a lot of noise, that kind of comes at us on a daily basis. Never mind a kind of an hourly or minute to minute basis. So it actually allows you to kind of just get a bit more perspective as well when you look at the market as a broader picture, because I was checking it really at the end of every day rather than at the end of every hour, sometimes. So I think that's quite useful as well, and actually it can really improve your performance and your approach just by taking a decent break. It can really help you think about the markets in with a different approach, which is needed every now and again, because the market does change, and sometimes you can't see it when you're in it.
Yeah, man, I think that's really fair, and I think one of the things with it is you don't get perspective while you're there. You only get perspective when you have your breaks. So I think perspective often can improve your trading quite a lot. How about you, Alexis Nainsley? Have you had busy trading weeks?
Yeah, not bad. Alexis here. Had
Hey, Alexis, how you
quite
doing?
busy trading week.
Excuse the casual attire, guys. We are going to bring the cameras up, but I've got to say, it's Sunday night in New Zealand. I'm not going to dress for the thing. I am going to camera up and keep it a bit more personal, but no dress shirt for me for this.
I can't bring my camera up.
You can't bring your camera up.
Yeah, I can't as well.
Sorry, guys. Look, I'm now on 2 screens, and hoping that I'm not causing too much feedback anywhere. So I've got video on this one. I've got sound on this one. That is brilliant. What I need to do is just give you guys all some superpowers, which I'll do right now. And I guess what I'll do is I'll make Ash co-host, which should give him some powers. I'll make Alexis co-host, which should give him some powers, and no powers for Ainsley, just for Hugh. I'll give Ainsley some powers as well. You know you're loving it, Ainsley. You can't wait for your turn. You're going to talk about your week. I know you're excited. Look, before we get into the charts today, the plan has been sent out to you guys. I think it's reasonably well known. We are going. We are brilliant. We are going Alexis on fundamentals. We are going to go after that to Ash, who's going to talk to us about how equities links the euro and dollar. Well, he can talk about that. Ainsley on gold and oil, Jeff on euro, pound New Zealand, Swiss yen and CAD Swiss. I couldn't read it all at the same time, guys. We will try and keep it the same format as last week. We'll try and keep it pretty punchy today, guys. And we will see if we can get a bit of interaction going. Alexis, what's happening for us fundamentally? Alexis, what's happening for us fundamentally this week?
Well, I think it's a pretty exciting things going on. So what happened was, as everybody knows, the S&P is an all-time high, and I'm sure Ainsley is really happy because gold is an all-time high. And the question probably would be, can it go any higher, right? Well, I'll leave Ainsley to comment on gold, but basically there's a couple of things that's happening in the market. So ever since this whole COVID situation happened, America, as you guys know, has been pumping money into the markets, and this caused, the S&P, actually basically stocks to actually really drive upwards. But I guess a lot of wondering is why does that happen? And it's pretty simple because when they had the CARES Act back in March, right, for the stimulus, is to help those people who have problems finding jobs, who have lost their jobs. So American household gets an injection of about $1,002 USD to 3,000, depending on how many people in the house and income bracket, etc. So that's like 2.2 trillion into a stimulus in March, and that actually drove stock markets up. All right, because there's more money or liquidity pumped into the market, into households. And this is the thing. If you are out of a job and you're stuck at home and you're worried about finding a new job, or you have got nothing to do, whichever, I think markets and stock markets and trading is something that a lot of people turn to, especially when they're stuck at home, because that is one of the few jobs that you can kind of sit at home and do, right? And that's where you get a whole bunch of retail traders coming in. And if you guys have heard of this Robinhood traders, there's this app created in the US, been there for quite some time. It allows people to just jump in on trading really, really easily. And, and it's of course caused a lot of problems for unexperienced or inexperienced traders, and make them lose their money and all that. But this is the thing, when the money pumps into the market, it's going to take time to move around. Right, and this movement around of markets, there's going to be a portion of this 2.2 trillion, which will be injected back into the stock markets. And that's what causes stock prices to go up so high. So one reason why the stock markets are going so high, it's money. All right, and then we have the HEROES Act. That's also being recently discussed, and I think next week they'll talk about whether or not it'll come out as a second stimulus check. They're going to confirm some stuff, and that's like a second wave of stimulus. It's about 3 trillion pumping into the market again, and it kind of takes time for the markets for the money to actually reach people. So you have one injection of money in March, you have another injection of money coming up soon, and all this extra money in the market where people are trying to figure out what to do next, or people who are just bored, and there's so many, and it's so easy to access trading. That's probably one of the reasons why it's driven the stock market prices so high, because all this money and the perception of how easy it is to make money, and the advertisements on social media running up about all these YouTube videos on how to create wealth and etc. And all these young people who are a bit more adventurous, trying to figure out where to go next, a portion of this 2.23 trillion is definitely going to jump back into the stock market. And then it leads up to the point of the third thing, which is the FOMO effect, right? The fear of missing out. So when you see markets keep getting higher and higher, and it seems like there's money being made, it seems easy to be making money, as long as you're jumping into the stock market. Again, if you're inexperienced and you are looking at people making money online everywhere, it creates the FOMO effect where they will think that, yeah, it's really high, but it's still going higher, and then that's where you jump in. So this creates this whole bubble that seems to be happening. And there's a lot of analysts that are saying that, oh, it's going to crash. But I think until as long as there's money in the markets, I don't think it's going to crash so soon. It may come in months and months to come where the problems actually realize. But I think in this period, especially with new injection of money, definitely the stock markets are going to move. So I don't know. It's already an all-time high. I think if we just look at the charts, S&P is like almost 3,000 plus. That's like, and it's really like a super V-shaped recovery. It's got a little bit more to go before it hits the previous high just before December. I guess until it hits there, it hits a wall, it probably will go close to it, at least until the market runs out of money. How about gold, Ainsley? What do you think? I'm not sure if she's up next. I didn't see the schedule, but that's really money upon money. And
Ash is up next, but look, you're not going to get me saying anything other than yippee. Yippee, Skip. Good week on gold, wasn't it?
Yeah, very good
and
week.
That's flight safety. That's all that was. It's just as everything unwound, everything became diabolical. The US dollar dropped. They're just printing more money and everything else. Gold just looked like its normal, typical, hello kind of self. So that's what it did. And I rode it all the way.
And more to come, I think.
For that, cheers for that, Alexis. Much appreciated. Thanks, Ainsley. Let's thank you. We will have Alexis in each week at the start of the show, 25 minutes, talking about fundamentals before we get into the more technical stuff. We're going to have Ash up next to go through some stuff. Then we'll have Ainsley on oil and gold. Then we'll have Jeff on some charts. We'll see whether anyone else turns up today. I'm not sure whether we will see Julian or Orlando pop into the show at some stage. I know it's pretty late where Orlando is. He did talk about he might pop in. Ash, what are we looking at today, buddy?
Well, I think a lot of interest for me this week. I tend to like the last week of the month the most. I mean, it is really it's the shape of the month. When you kind of get to the last week of the month, it does shape the monthly bar. And we'll start with the FTSE. It's not necessarily the most informed charts in many respects, but it is my go-to. So we'll start with this just to see what's happened really with the UK market. And I'm looking at this on weekly charts to start with, because we can't really ascertain anything from the month just yet. But as the week draws on, we will be able to do that. And we can see that, the FTSE had a really negative week last week. And I think this is quite significant because it closed at the lows, almost a bearish engulfing bar. I think in many respects, some people would class this as a bearish engulfing bar because the close is below the open of the previous week, and the open was above the close of the previous week as well. So pretty negative looking bar there, but we are on support. So there's no point in shorting it here. We're going to be better off to see if it can actually take this level out here. If we were looking at this, and I'd encourage everybody to do this. If you don't know how to draw trend lines and you struggle with whether to draw trend lines on wicks or closes, just switch your chart up every now and again to the line chart. Now, the line chart can be found right next to your candlestick chart, your candlestick icon. So just flip to a line chart, and this gives you closing prices. And we know that the most significant aspect of a candle is the close. So if you're getting a little bit of confusion of what's really happening, switch to a line chart and see if you're getting the touches. And we're seeing that we are getting a touch here, and we're on top of that touch here. And when we flip it back to the candles, it's quite good because we've also got this little bar touching down here as well. So there is some significance of the price at this point. And because of that, we don't have a lot of data that is known at this point when we start the week. So the likelihood is the higher probability, and when I say the higher probability, I mean anything beyond 51%. I'm not saying there's a huge chance of this, but there is a better chance that this happens, is that we bounce here early on, because there's not really a lot as yet reported that is going to drive this. This is going to continue to drive this lower from this point. So there's likely to be a bounce here. If we compare this to some of the other markets as well, and I'm going to flip to the Nasdaq, because the Nasdaq it has been the outperformer, you know, of all the equities. If you consider a longer time period, you could put the DAX in there as well, the German market. But let's talk about the Nasdaq, because the Nasdaq, if we think about this in, I guess, logical terms, then the Nasdaq would probably have been, you know, if we were considering this from the start, it's it's not really that surprising that it's outperformed, because people were staying at home and tech was much more important, and that's just one reason. There's many other reasons, but the tech stocks have done really, really well. So when we look at the Nasdaq, and I look at this again on a weekly chart, the significant thing for me about this weekly bar is the wick, because when this was coming down towards the end of last week and it was here on Thursday, then I was expecting this to be a really obvious sell. You know, it was looking really negative. Now, there's no doubt that there is some weakness up here, but the jump up on Friday makes this more indecisive. So it makes it a lot more dangerous to you know, open up the market on Monday and expect this to sell off. And if we bring this, if we bring this to a daily chart, then we can see what happened on Friday. You know, we open up here, we drive down, and we end up closing here. Now, again, this is an indecisive hammer, or an indecisive low test bar. It doesn't have any real clear close to it, because it wasn't near enough the top end of the candle. It's just about above 50% probably, and it's not far enough down to suggest that we're coming down. So this one needs further clarity, and the Nasdaq would be, I think, of all markets, the better one to go long on if we were quite bullish on equities. We're looking at the Nasdaq and probably the DAX. And again, you know, looking at the trend line from the close here, then the bounce becomes like a pretty evident bounce, pretty obvious area that would bounce from. So it might come back down here, test this trend line, but then again start to bounce up. So we've got to be a little bit careful. And the two ways to play it would be try and pick it up on a short as it comes up to test you know, an upper level, and maybe we are looking at the wicks you know, somewhere around about there, which would lead us up to around about 10,800. So maybe looking for a short in that area. It might end up being lower. Maybe we're going to use this level, and it depends on the day that it arrives there. But looking at this trend line would be a potential shorting, or we wait for it to break below this particular low of this hammer. So below 10,300 would be a potential short in the Nasdaq. I think we probably are looking at the long ultimately at this particular stage, and this really brings us back to what's been happening on the currency market. Now, many of you will need to look at the dollar index, you know, to find out what's the general weakness of the dollar. But you don't need a dollar index chart for that. What you need is the euro dollar, because the euro dollar makes up over 57% of the basket of currencies that the dollar's compared against to get the dollar index. So the euro dollar is fine. You know, you can look at the euro dollar and get a clear enough picture of what's happening to the dollar, generally speaking. Now, Europe have had a debt package where they are lumping all the European countries for loans and for aid, which is unusual. You know, they don't usually do that. They don't usually lump them all in together, but they're all on an even keel to show this solidarity. And it's pushed the euro higher. And ultimately, we have to watch European equities for that as well, because it's likely to push the European equities higher. So the DAX becomes a really interesting indice to try and pick up. If it's, you know, if we can get some sort of move to the downside, I wouldn't really want to play it. I'd be much more interested in looking at a FTSE 100 short and a DAX long, if the market kind of was to give us a decent shelf. And we're probably looking after Wednesday. You know, we got news and data that's more significant later in the week. Wednesday, I think we have a Fed meeting and we have some GDP numbers from the States. And we got to watch out for those, because if this market is about to turn, if we are starting to finally shift the balance of the bulls to the bears, then we got to watch out for what the GDP numbers are, because that could really tell us on what's going to go on for the next 6 months of the year. Are we probably a bit overvalued up here? And is it worse than that? Is it potentially worse than that? Because if it is, we'll probably see some downside in the S&P, the Dow, and the FTSE. And less downside in the Nasdaq, and maybe a little less downside in the DAX as well. So if those data points come out to be weak, let's watch out for them and see if they create a buying opportunity in some of the European equities, or whether we're actually just looking to all out sell some of the US equities and possibly the FTSE. So that's my focus really this week. Looking at that data point and seeing, what it's reading. The unemployment claims last week was pretty atrocious. Was there a retail sales number? I missed a few of the data points last week, but there was a retail sales number that wasn't particularly good. Am I right in saying that, mate, last week?
So question from Dominic. He says, I've got the light on here, which can make me look a bit angelic at times. It says, looks very white in the background where you are at. Mate, I didn't see the data point for you. I have a question for you. Can you make the NASDAQ chart for a second?
Sure.
Now, it's one of these situations for me I just find really fascinating, mate. That low test bar on Friday,
yep,
I wouldn't pay too much attention personally. I reckon that's guys that have got short Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday closing positions before the weekend. And it creates a bit of late buying as they lock out because they don't want to carry through. So the Friday test bar in that situation, for mine, when you've seen those sort of 3 or 4 days in a row, I kind of feel like that buying, I mean, if that bar closed on the bottom, it'd be a bit more bearish. So I'll be interested to see what happens on Monday. But for mine, that looks a bit like profit taking to me. Most of that buying happened about 6 hours out before the end of the day. And just in an hour. And I suspect someone took a bit of profit off the table and banked it before we got to weekends, because you'd be a bit nervous about weekend gaps at the moment, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I agree with you, mate. But I mean, would you also agree that it's kind of an unclear picture right now to really know what's going to happen? Do we enter kind of like some sort of sideways consolidation at this particular point?
You say it's unclear, Ash. For me, definitely, for me, it looks like the start of a range. We've got 2 highs, 2 lows. It looks like the start of a range, and we've got 2 bars at the start of it, which run it. Which I'm always interested in a bar or 2 at the start of a range, which controls the range. And I do agree with you, mate. I think it's reasonably unclear. But I like the analysis that goes with it. But I always find those Friday bars on the stocks. And not only the stocks. Quite often when the market's been one-sided, I'm a bit surprised not to see a bit more on gold, which Andrew will talk about later on, where late Friday, I'm surprised people didn't just bank a little bit of money on it so they don't carry it through, because gaps can be an issue and that kind of stuff,
Well, I wonder. Well, this is what we got with the euro. So last week's euro bar was just astonishingly bullish, and last week's gold bar, as you've pointed out, again astonishingly bullish. Now, some of the guys in the US show will know we're looking at some cryptos as well, and there's a specific crypto which is this again ended up extremely bullish, and I think it's probably more of a dollar story, and the dollar story becomes clearer on Wednesday. So that suggests to me that we might well hit some consolidation for the next 2 or 3 days in some of these markets. So I'd say be careful at the start of the week. If you're a day trader and you're able to kind of understand the slingshot, then it's probably not the worst strategy to really look for in the next couple of days, because I think ranges are probably much more likely. I don't think this continues to take off until Wednesday or Thursday, and I feel the same about gold. But the fact that they have both ended near their highs, it is significant. The dollar is in a lot of trouble, and again that brings us back to the equity story, because that suggests if the dollar is going to continue to weakness, it suggests that the stimulus is probably expected to continue to be pumped into the market. Now, why would you go short equities if that's going to happen? Yes, they're overvalued, but does the timing become a little bit early and premature while we are still quite bearish on the dollar? And I suspect it does, and that's another reason that I think maybe the equities could be a little bit tricky before Wednesday or Thursday, before we get the clearer picture.
Mate,
So it's a bit of an
I think the dollar-
unfolding.
the dollar thing's fascinating, isn't it? Because everything's valued in US dollars, and largely the more you have of something, the less it's worth. So
Yep.
as they pump liquidity into the market, they pump US dollars into the market. There's more and more and more US dollars out there. You would expect the US dollar to lose value because there's more of them, and that does support the equity rally, and perhaps that's to a degree what's been happening is that what we are starting to see now is clearly a bit of a devaluation of the dollar.
Yeah, and I think it's quite a good, it's a useful thing for us, because if we settle on that, whether we're right or wrong will become clearer. But if we settle on that, it does mean that our analysis can become a lot more streamlined, because we can look at the dollar and then effectively spread out from that. The dollar affecting gold, affecting the euro, affecting equities. So we can really focus on the American story and the US dollar. To see what we're going to do next, and if the equities look a little bit weak, but the dollar continues to be weaker, then shorting equities does not seem too safe to me, and it's probably better to move on to something like the euro and gold. To continue to move to those spaces rather than looking at equities. And the other thing that I find just a little bit concerning about equities is the lack of volatility. The VIX has been solid. In as much that it hasn't really gone anywhere. It's hit a range. I thought it was breaking down when I left the market on Friday last week. The previous week. I thought it was breaking down, but it held firm, but it didn't take off. So I think the VIX is going to be another fascinating chart that we need to keep our eye on, because if the VIX starts to move significantly higher, then a short on global equities looks to me like a pretty obvious play. But if it doesn't, then again, global equities might just hit this really difficult range, which we've already had. We're already in a range with these global equities where this is the FTSE again. We basically had 6 weeks of going nowhere. So even though this bar may look significant, it might just be that we're at the bottom of the range again, and we float around. So we got to be a bit careful when we're trying to trade these, and I suspect probably the best move would be look for the long, but look for the long with caution at this particular point, and day trade it until Wednesday, until we get a clearer picture. Or if the long happens, wait for the long to unfold, and then look for Wednesday to maybe take a longer position on a short on the FTSE specifically.
Guys, anyone else want to jump in and offer any opinions on the stuff that Ash is talking about? We've got if you have any questions, put them in the questions box. We'll get him to answer them while he's here. Ainsley, Alexis, Jeff, Julian, you guys got anything, any questions on this?
Not for me.
I can see we've got Julian in the room, so we might pop to him after Ash before we come to you, Ainsley, if that's okay.
That's fine.
It's getting a bit late in New Zealand. Ash, what else from you? So as for you, Wednesday's the big day. We're looking for data on Wednesday for a decision on US dollar weakness or strength. If US dollar weakness continues, then we're looking for continuations up in gold, euro, and equity markets. If the US dollar was to reverse, that would all start in reverse for you.
Exactly. Yeah, that is pretty much it. I think we've got to be pretty careful of the euro and gold for further positions to the upside until we get that data. I think it could be really interesting. That the data points aren't likely to turn the dollar around, but we got to kind of approach this in the right way. And if something was to happen and something was to unfold that was to turn the US dollar around, I suspect the euro and gold could be the outliers for a deep sell-off that's what we probably look for. So a turnaround in the dollar, I'd say equities, gold, and the euro go significantly lower. I think that they probably, it may only end up being a correction because they've effectively had such a parabolic move. But the parabolic move, I looked at gold earlier on, and it's not even oversold. It's just completely embedded. It's just the indicators can't even pick it up anymore. Overbought, sorry. Yeah, so it's not yeah. The indicators. Yeah. Well, they can't even pick it up anymore. That's how bullish it's been. So I think that if the dollar turns around at any point, really, any point in the next 6 months, if gold and the euro continue in their direction, then they're the ones that are going to probably sell off the hardest.
Mate, your man Shukri from your trading show during the week is talking about ADA is very bullish and heck 9% of cryptos are bullish. And again, one of the things about cryptos, if the US dollar is falling, you would expect cryptos to be going up in value because it's a relative thing. They're valued in US dollars.
Well, as Shukri knows, ADA's got a slightly different story to it, but yeah, I mean, ADA is just ridiculous. That is, I think it's up 100% in a month or something. He might be able to correct me on that, but it's pretty close to that. It's just an astonishing move. But you don't really see the same with Bitcoin, So yes, you're right on that, but to a degree, you still have to pick the right cryptocurrency to take a true advantage of what's going on. And that, as I said, had its own side story going on, which has turned out to be incredibly bullish for ADA.
Mate, going to invite Julian in here in a second. He's got a question for you in the questions box. I'll get him to do it verbally so the guys on YouTube can hear it. Mate, just checking, Shukri does cryptos for you on what was it, Tuesdays he comes into your show?
Yes, very informed man, Shukri.
Which show?
Yeah. US show. US show on Tuesday. I think it's 2 p.m. UK. So I'm not sure what that converts to Singapore time, but yeah, 2 p.m. UK.
So mate, you're in Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday at 523 Singapore, live and free on YouTube. It's your last week live and free on YouTube. I'm not sure if you know that yet, but it's your last week live and free on YouTube. You'll be live and free on YouTube and Facebook Live from Thursday, is my understanding. James has got that under control.
Oh, okay, cool.
Streaming you guys onto Facebook as well as YouTube. So that's 5 to 3
You
free,
better get a
free
haircut,
for everybody. And then 9 o'clock we are on the paid show. Was it $300-400 a month for you guys?
I think that's right, mate. I think that's right. You might need to help me with that because I'm still catching up after my break.
I'm pretty sure it's $34.95 a show for the month, and I'm pretty sure it's 9 p.m. But I'll get one of the guys to confirm that. Julian, is it the cart or the horse? Has the equity markets lead FX lower?
Yeah, I was just wanted to ask Ash actually. So I'm a little bit nervous about equity markets from here on in. I know that there's a Fed meeting. I know there may be a bump at the end of the month, but I'm given the way some of those leading stocks have been trading in the last few days, it's beginning to suggest to me that we may have done our dough on the Nasdaq, and it's really going to go into at best a consolidation, and if not, the summer election cycle with Biden leading and all the other things that's going to create quite a bit of uncertainty. So I'm not quite sure when that trigger is going to be, if it's going to be the Fed meeting or, I don't know, some really important micro results out from somebody. So company results out from somebody, which creates a bit of a sell-off. But I did notice last week that Tesla fell almost 20% in the course of 2 days, which is highly entertaining, of course, because Tesla's quite an interesting stock.
Yeah.
That may be a sign, although quite frankly, I've no real clue about Tesla. That may be a sign that something odd is starting to happen on those really expensive stocks.
Yeah, Tesla's an interesting one, as you say, Matt. From what I gather, they managed to meet the analyst expectations of earnings and maybe even beat it. But Tesla's issue now is they've had to lower. I think it's the Y model. I might be wrong on that, but they've had to lower the price of the Y model. So the earnings probably won't be quite as good next time round. And if you'd bought Tesla and seen the run to the upside that it had, I'd be getting a bit nervous thinking that they'd had to lower the price of one of their models, thinking that I've got this hugely expensive stock that's unlikely to meet the next estimate if they're lowering prices of products. So I did look at Tesla as a potential, some downside. And yes, it's affected the Nasdaq. As far as I'm aware, Microsoft didn't have great earnings, did it either? Didn't they miss?
No, they were down 4% the next day as well.
They were down 4%. So yeah, and I think that's interesting, isn't it? And I suppose the fact that Biden might win. I mean, you're going to be much more informed on this than I am. But a Democrat in the White House historically can't be as good for stocks as a Republican. Is that a correct statement? Because I would have thought that might actually affect equities a bit.
I think sometimes the jury's often out on that, but I think in all likelihood this time around,
Yeah.
That's very much going to be the case. Yeah.
Yeah. So the more news that comes out that Biden's winning, probably the more nervous that people are going to get. And while we're there focusing on the numbers from the Fed, that may well start to, because it is the case in the UK, and that's why I make the comparison. You know, Labour is traditionally not meant to be as good for the market as the Conservatives. So running on that kind of theory, and you know, particularly with the two people that are up against each other, I wonder whether we might start needing to watch those data points with the presidential election to see whether that's going to make the market a bit nervous. You know, maybe even regardless of data, but the data's just. I wonder whether we're starting to see a breakdown. Did you see the retail sales, Jules? Because I'm sure there was another data point that I heard about that looked pretty negative, and I thought it was retail sales.
Let me have a look and come back to us. The part of this with Tesla is just Musk on his Twitter, isn't it? He's done some weird stuff recently and it's freaking some people out, isn't it? He sort of made some comment about some stuff he shouldn't have. That sort of, you know, he's kind of got dragged in some stuff on social media recently, which seems really weird. And he's back at it today. And it'll be unsettling for investors. Some of the stuff he's tweeting at the moment, it just seems weird.
Yeah, that's him though, isn't it? You know, that's him all over. And yeah, you could be right because he's been fairly quiet to this point, but you know, the man's a genius. So if Tesla starts to move to the downside, then and it's significant enough, then I'll be looking for a buying opportunity. I think he is a very, very clever man, and he's got an amazing product.
Retail sales came in from Canada and Great Britain last week, but I don't see them straight off.
The previous week, maybe the previous week for the US.
Yeah, I can tell you, unemployment claims came in a bit higher than they were expecting. At first look, I don't see them in there, mate. To be honest, let me have another look going back.
See, that's what we got to watch. Is the data starting to break down? I think the ISM numbers at the start of not next week, but the following week are going to be interesting as well.
Okay, mate. Is that you for now, Ash?
Yes.
Julian, what do you got for us?
Yeah. So I'm going to pick up on that theme actually around the seasonals as well too, and I want to highlight a couple of things which are completely different at the moment going forward. So the seasonals for the British pound are completely different to the seasonals for the New Zealand dollar and the Kiwi dollar. And so the Kiwi dollar, New Zealand dollar is quite negative, those seasonals, and for the pound is not brilliant, but they're certainly not negative. So at the moment, I'm beginning to think the way the charts are spinning out and the way in which we're starting to look that those crosses might become more interesting here. So if you're not confident enough being outright long of British pounds or euros or Aussie or Kiwi, right, and you're looking for some more movement, I think the answer may well be on those cross rates. So thinking about my old favorite, the sterling Aussie, which put a big reversal in place over the course of the tail end of last week, and other crosses, essentially euro, Kiwi, euro, Aussie, things like that. They could be really interesting places to be playing the next couple of weeks, where you've got that seasonal bias with the different currencies creating movements in those crosses that you may be a little bit ahead of the game on some of those. So just bear that in mind. Apart from that, very clearly the euro and actually, well, let's just go with everything apart from the US dollar is up, and the dollar yen, the Japanese yen is probably the worst ones of the lot. You know, it began to break down on Friday, but boy, oh boy, it's like the last guy to the party. It must be really embarrassing if you're the last guy to the party, because you always end up turning up and everybody's taken half the drink and there isn't much left. Certainly not that cheap stuff that I normally drink at parties. So I think the thing about that is that the dollar yen may not be that strong because it could be the weakest of those trending currencies, and just bear that in mind. It doesn't mean to say that it won't go down, and I think it's got quite a bit of distance to go down, but at the moment it's lagging the pack, not leading it. So really important when you're thinking about trading to recognize which are the leaders and which are the laggards in terms of thinking about what you're going to do with your trades. You could scattergun and try everything, but I think there's still a case for, if everything is moving in one direction, the correlation is one, be it gold, be it Aussie, be it Kiwi, be it euros, be it British pounds, be it Canadian dollar, here we go, the whole lot, right? That which one's leading and which ones are lagging, and probably gold and euro are the leading ones, and those are the ones you should be focusing on if you want to be long, and with an eye on the dollar yen, because I think that has the potential to move quite a long way to the downside. It's quite expensive and should go, you know, there's a chance we could get down to the 98 cents area, I think, on a bit of a shakeout, but we're not there yet, and it's only just started, and maybe it if we break back above 107, all bets are off anyway. So just bear that in mind in terms of what's going on. Like I said, I think I'm a little bit nervous about stocks. I'm very bullish on bonds, and I am quite nervous about the oil market here as well too. There may be a flush out coming in the oil market. I'm just not quite sure how that's going to happen, because the economic situation is recovering. The question is what the market has priced in. If the market has priced in perfection for the economic situation, then oil could well be regarded as being too expensive here. If it's still pricing in a bit of a journey back for all the economies, so if you like, it's going to, you know, they've done a lot of the heavy lifting, but they're nowhere near where they were 6 months ago, then there may be a chance that the oil market is possibly going to remain in a flat line and probably just go sideways for a little while. So just bear that in mind. I think there's a real risk to the downside with oil from here, but we just have to see if that eventuates based upon some kind of demand shock, I think, rather than necessarily a supply change. Maybe Ainsley has more comments on that, but that's my overall thesis. I also love coffee, by the way, for the record, and I'm getting quite bullish on natural gas as well too.
Cheers, Julian. Thank you very much. Coffee still going up?
So coffee broke up from about 98 cents to $1.06 on Wednesday, I think it was, and looks fairly strong.
Nice, mate. And you're still in the natural gas space as well?
Yes, so I've been in and out of natural gas 2 or 3 times in the last 6 months. I'm getting bullish again now.
Cheers. Look, whoever's Galaxy S8, it'd be great if you could put your name so we could just know who it is we're chatting with. Thanks for your comments as well, Crystal. We'll jump on anything else we need to as well. Helm. Okay, cheers. Do you want that's you for now?
Yeah, I don't have anything else really to talk about, to be honest with you.
Mate, that is okay. I know Ainsley is just looking forward to having a say. Ainsley, we pretty much nailed gold last week. We got the retracement and you got the target.
Where do I start? Where do I start? Hello, gold. I think I drove a couple of people batty with a few comments like, love gold, still love gold. Did I mention I love gold? Yeah, I've had a really good week. I must say, I had a really good week. A couple of times I got very nervous because if you jump down to a 4-hourly chart, Paul, you will see the thank you, Kian. Sorry, there's a comment there. It says, "I see the golden shine in you, Ainsley." Yes, you can see the retracements that took part. It wasn't just a straight line up. It does look like that on the weekly chart. It looks like it on the daily chart. It just went from A to B straight up. But at all the levels, I know with the first level that we had that big jump. And can I just call out, we were talking last week, somebody asked me, I think it was either Dennis or Alan, asked me, where do I go in? Where do I look for an entry? And we pulled up the the weekly pivot. Was it weekly pivot, Paul? And yep. you said at 1805, that looks like a really good entry on the pivot on the 4-hourly chart. Bang, because we pulled it up and it looked really good. To almost the dollar, 1805 was a really, really beautiful entry. It retraced to Monday morning. There it is, beautiful. Look at it. Bang, straight off. It's completely supported by the 20 EMA, the 50 EMA, and off it went. And
do
it
hope
did
you guys
not look bad.
who watched the show last week got that. We did talk about that as an entry area and a bounce off weekly pivot, and I do hope you guys got that. And if you got it,
Oh, good work.
oh, nice. Gold made 10% in 2 days on
Excellent.
the count. That is
10%,
nice to
2
hear.
days.
We love it.
Good
Been
work.
an interesting week for traders in the company, you got to say. Been some, we've got Richard back grabbing another check. I think that 5th time this year, taking a payment. Some interesting results. And I think it's been one of those things where trading's been quite tough unless you pick the right markets. And Ainsley, let's be fair. Last week wasn't just a golden week for you on gold. You had a pretty good week all the way around with the currencies as well, right?
Yeah, I did. And let's start with Monday. Monday, we talked about the third Monday of the month, S&P 500. Buy on the open, close on first, profitable close. Didn't stick to the rule.
Every
I'm
every
still
month
kicking
you come back
myself.
and do this. And here's what I do with it now. Actually, I can't say that, but yeah. I'm this is still from last month when I bought it.
Oh, thanks, guys. Yeah. Yeah. So Monday we bought it. You and I were talking at the time, but I think both of us were buying it and putting positions on.
Yeah.
I went to bed and I thought, oh, knowing my luck, because I was really nervous about the setup for my indicators, and I still grabbed 2% on it. 2%'s not too shabby on a monthly trade. You can't say that's a bad thing. So 2% for Monday night. If I'd stayed in the bloomin' trade and followed the rules, I would have made 10%. But I slept a lot easier. Let's just say that.
You've got to bank the money, right? So
yeah, take the money. Take the money. You don't go broke banking profit, right?
Yeah, it's never the worst thing to do. I'm a big fan. Let's get back and have a little bit of this. I think that there's a really fair question now, Anthony. I think it's a lot tougher. Last week we talked about the stuff, to be honest. Yeah, we got it right, but I don't think it was the toughest thing in the world that we got right. But this week it's different. I've got weekly pivot about 1870, and I guess the question for mine is we've seen this. It's not going to happen every week. We've seen this beautiful interaction with weekly pivot and these bounces we talked about last week. We'll set us up for this little test and go. This week it pulled down off the Friday, came away. But what's going to happen this week, Ainsley? What are you expecting?
Well, as you've heard me, as it keeps moving up and up and up, I've become quite nervous. And going back down to the 4-hourly chart where you can see it, I'd be like, oh, great, it's moved, excellent. And then the next 3 bars are like pullbacks, retracements, all the rest of it. And I'll be, my heart in my mouth is like, let it do its thing, let it do its thing. Because there is nowhere along there that actually gave me any indication that it was going to do a major retracement. And I know you and I talked about 1860, and it was the R2. We were talking, it was R2 on the daily. And you said, oh, maybe you should look at taking some profits there. And I just looked at all my other indicators that just said, no, it's not going to stop there. It's going to push right through. So I actually listened to your advice, ignored it, and kept going to 1900. So 1900, as we know, is a really strong. We got there. The all-time high is 1921. So at the moment,
what should they be doing this week, Ainsley, with gold?
What will it do this week? I reckon we're going to have a bit of thrashing around. I think we got to 1900. There's a lot of where I was leading with the buying. People get to a certain level, and then there would be obviously a lot of profit taking. So it'd be a sharp retracement back down again. Then it'll push back up again. The way everything is, from all the stuff I've read from Saturday morning right through to a couple of hours ago, is the way everything is looking. Treasury bonds, the US stimulus packages, pumping, writing money, printing money, and everything the way it is. Gold's still looking really, really strong. And at no point is anybody saying it's looking like a major retracement. And I know all the indicators are saying oversold and all the rest of it. Most of the analysts say just buy, hold. A lot of the big guys are just saying they're just going to continue to buy gold. And at the end of the day, that's really what we want to do. We actually just want to get on their coattails and just go along for the ride, which, as you can see, I've done since about 17th of December last year. So
Actually,
yeah,
there's another six-figure winner for you, wasn't it? More than 100K US on gold in the last couple of weeks. I'm going to go out here and say,
been
you know,
lucky.
if you're a retail trader trading in this market, you can't buy this without a retracement now. If you're in there, you can ride it, right? If you're still in this and you want to sit in there, you can sit in here. But if you're looking to get in this market, we need to pull back, right?
Yeah. Look, that's what we're looking for. And I kept saying, look for the bit of the consolidation where the profit taking is, and then get ready to go for the next leg at the moment. And cross-check that with the fundamentals, what's happening in the market. Jeff made a comment the other night, and he said, "Oh, I was wrong with my analysis," and we corrected him, and we said he made a decision based on the information he had at the time. What happened was there was new information into the market, and the market changed, and it adapted to that new information. So he wasn't wrong; it just changed, and that's what I'm saying. Is just like look at the market, keep abreast of what's going, and adapt. Don't get emotional about a position you're taking. Although I must say I got a little emotional about this position.
Settle down on your advice, eh? Gold does love, even in this big move, right? Gold does love to consolidate before it pops away, doesn't it?
It does.
There's another little box in here if you want to draw
Loves
it in. It sort of goes from one box to here. It almost goes from here, this range to this range to this range to pops up to this range and takes off. And I'd expect we're going to see something in the way of a consolidation or pullback on gold. If we do, I think it becomes a lot interesting. Hard for the retail guys to get in here, right? And even for you, Ainsley, you need something to get you one up here, don't you?
Yeah, look, I've taken the decision. I closed one of my positions at 1900. Like I said, I'm still open on some of the others because I can see 2000 down the track, and the end of the year is not that far away. But yeah, and look, it's the way it goes. She'll consolidate, profit take, people will profit take. But at the moment, that flight to safety is getting stronger and stronger at the moment, and nobody is actually backing away from it, which is why we've had 7 weeks in a row of an uptrend.
Can I ask, guys? We've got FOMC on FOMC on Wednesday. Does anyone know? Are we expecting more quantitative easing? Is that what this US dollar sell-off's about? Is more quantitative easing coming in the US? I mean, look, you know, yeah, let's get it. Ash, Julian, Ainsley, anyone, Alexis, anyone got an answer on that for me? Are we expecting quantitative easing from the FOMC, from the Fed?
There was a bill being sent to the Hill, I think last week or this week, for more stimulus.
Because that'll drop the US dollar. You'd have thought that will drop the US dollar. Interesting, you know, a lot of Trump talking about, you know, the coronavirus numbers are up, but the death tolls down. All of a sudden, death tolls in the US well past 1,000 a day in the last couple of days, and you know, it's just hard to keep the rhetoric going in the face of the numbers, and even for Donald at some stage, you know, there's going to be a cost for this, you'd imagine. Oh yeah, Ainsley, that's gold. What about oil?
Oil, apart from doing my happy dance with gold, oil's really chopped around. So I've been neutral on oil because I just found it really hard. You've gone into Brent oil. If you go up to XTI, up to, yep. So again, it's just gone sideways. We had a little pop, but seriously, no, I can't get excited about oil. It's just, again, if you drop down to a 4-hourly chart, somebody says one thing, it goes straight up in one direction. Look at it. Look at that. Yeah, I mean, I think my technical pattern term is a dog's breakfast, all over the place. And you can't get any clear direction. You're going to get chopped and cut trading that chart.
I'll tell you what, Pung, he's done pretty well on it, and it'll be interesting to have a chat with him in a couple of weeks about what he is doing with it, because he's making about 5% a week, and to do that on that chart, he is doing something pretty clever. There is no doubt.
That can't be a daily chart, because daily chart is nothing.
Oh no, he's not trading on daily chart, no, but he's certainly, you know, that no matter what you're doing, that looks choppy to me and tough to trade, you know.
Yeah.
I guess, oh gosh, yeah, no, I was going to say, look, at least we've been putting on higher highs and higher lows, but that's a
all
lower
over.
high, sitting up there on a lower low. That looks a little bit on the bearish side to me.
So
Rightio,
that's really tough. But yeah,
Ainsley,
again, a good week in the office.
big week,
that wasn't just on
8.5%
gold.
on gold closed. You've had a winner on the pound, a winner on the euro, a winner on the yen, winner on the SPX. So the girls
And
can start
Aussie.
score for another year, which is always nice.
Yeah.
PB and
That
Ainsley
is
on
good.
US dollar market PMI miss. Is that what it was? Great, lots in here, but hard. Oh gosh, what happened there? Hard to follow some of it as we talk. Look, let's get. We've spoken. We've heard from Alexis. We've heard from Ash. We've heard from Julian. We've heard from Ainsley. Let's go to Jeff and have a look at some charts. Actually, before I do, anyone else want to weigh in on any of this? We have been on oil. We have been on gold. We have been on US dollar weakness. Euro, a bit of euro long. Anyone else? Any questions or comments from the team before we move on? Buddy, how's in Tasmania at the moment? Can you unmute, Jeff?
Oh, yeah, I thought it was. Can't you hear me? Hello,
Got you.
hello, hello.
Sorry, mate, we can't hear you at all.
I am unmuted.
I know we can hear you fine, mate. I'm only kidding. You're good as gold.
Okay, thanks. You bugger. I'll get you back.
Don't say that on YouTube. We'll get banned again, mate. I'll get another letter from
Oh, okay. Wasn't me. Didn't do it. Innocent.
Hey, before we get into the charts, Julian, a lot coming up this week. On Wednesday, I've got my company-wide announcement. We'll be doing a new membership offer in there. We'll be talking about a number of changes inside the company, the mentorship program, stuff that's going on around that. Some provisional dates are coming out. So do join us at 6:30 on Wednesday night if you're actually a client, and listen as we get through all of that stuff. Gosh, it's hard to make it. I just can't follow all that. Glad you really explained last week, PB and Ainsley, on US dollar market PMI miss bottles of wine, Ainsley. Okay.
I know. What a surprise. Me and wine. What do you know?
Jeff, tell me about the charts. What's happening for us technically this week?
Well, I've got to leave the US dollar alone, mate. I've been waiting for that to retrace for the last month, and it just refuses so to do. And obviously, we're seeing that in all markets all over the place. And no surprise, because it's a junk currency, as I've been saying for the last God knows how long. And I think
15 years, I reckon.
Yeah, probably. And the world's just starting to catch up with it, I guess. The problem is it won't retrace, and that's giving me a little bit of a heart, palpitations, I suppose, not failure. So I've gone a little bit outside the square, and I've got 4 crosses I want to have a look at today. Cat Swiss is one.
Guys, are those chat notes coming up for everybody? They shouldn't be. I don't
When
think
you say,
I think we're okay. Let's
coming
move on,
up.
guys.
We good?
Yeah, good to go, Jeff. Yeah.
CAD Swiss is one, and this is an interesting chart all of its own, but we have broken down a structure here, and I've got no idea what that gap was all about on Friday, but it cleared the most recent range, and I don't hold grave fears for it, but it looks extremely bearish to me. The interesting part is, and I've got to get rid of 2015, of course, with the decoupling, but this is very, very bearish in my humble opinion. We've broken that long-term range to the downside with an extremely bearish shift or break of that range back in, when was that? March or somewhere? As you would expect, the COVID reaction, I suppose. In many charts, you'll see that around February, March, and we failed to get back to that area, which was inside that range. We've now broken down the second structure, which was a retest of that range, and to my mind, a little bit of a retracement. You could almost call that a flag, I would think. That's now broken down to the low side. So on Monday morning, which of course is tomorrow, we've got a weekly pivot that sits here. You'll like that, mate. I've actually done the weekly pivot analysis or the beautiful little tool that we have to do that. And
Nice,
that
mate.
weekly pivot's sitting bang on this support level. So I reckon if we could get back there, I don't like our chances, to be honest, but I reckon if we could get back there during the week at some stage, this looks like a sell to me. I don't know that a retracement will go back that far. That's my only issue. But if it does, then I think we've got a real sell on our hands here. Where it goes is a very, very good question, but we've got a fair bit of space underneath us here until we get, pardon me, to the lows that are most recent. Some, 75 pips there. If we could enter around about here, about 100 pips that we're looking at, if we can get that bounce off the week, the new weekly pivot. So I think that's pretty good in the first instance. But then if you go a little bit wider and come back to that particular moment in time that I'm sure anybody who was trading at that time will never forget, then name your poison, really. If it can actually get through that low, my God, what happens next? I've no idea. It's probably not a probable outcome, but from a technical point of view, if that structure was to break down, that low was to break down, what happens next? Hands up, got no idea. But it is a massive chasm underneath it. That's what I see. And if I get the opportunity to trade that as a result of pullback to the weekly pivot, either tomorrow, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, whenever it comes, I think that'll be my trade for the week. CAD Swissy short. Next one I will look at is pound Kiwi. And we flagged this last week. In fact, I think I put that trade up last week for pound Kiwi. Well, it hasn't done it, but it's showing signs that it may well. It was really a breakout of the range that I was playing. And I've got that entry is actually above that bar there. So a classic A, B, C trade, if you like, up to the monthly pivot for the first take profit. I've seen nothing since that deters me from that. We've still got this big bullish engulfing bar sitting here. We've got a match of that over this side, which creates a pretty massive double bottom at the end of the day. And if you go a little bit wider on that chart, you can see exactly the position that is. And I know it's a cloud of a price, but by gee whiz, this has got potential as far as I can see. And as I said last week, this has got probably 2,500, 3,000 pips available if it were to take full advantage of what's available to it. And that, of course, is a structural thing that I'm talking about, going back to the top of this channel, this ascending channel. If you want to go a little bit wider, there it is there. And, you know, I think we've actually come to that support level, which is very, very strong here, which coincides with the weekly pivot. So I'm very, very keen to see a pullback to that weekly, and this is a common theme, and I suppose that's why I've put this weekly pivot on, because it's so demonstrative of what I think can happen early in the week, or even doesn't have to be early in the week. Let it go for 2 or 3 days, who cares? But I absolutely see the potential for this to bounce off the weekly pivot and the retest. And it's a cloud of a price. I know it's not anywhere near being finite. But if we can pull back to here, then I think there's an entry. Even this one again, I think there's a better entry down here somewhere. But I'll still hang on to that. I think it's still worth hanging on to. You're about to ask a question, mate.
So I was going to ask you to just zoom in a little bit, but you've done it a bit. It's just a bit clearer.
I can zoom in even further if you want. So the order that I've got in the market is above this bar here. But I think there'll probably be a better entry if we pull back again. So it'll be exactly the same trade, really. Break, retest, break, retest. And this will be better, actually, because we've gone a little bit outside it. And I think you can pick that up on pretty much any time frame on the daily chart there. But if you have a look at the 4 hour, pulling back to this area here, the weekly pivot's not going to move too much. But if it did, I think that's probably a good place to pick it up. If not, if you want to be a little bit safer, then wait for the breakout to the high side on the second occasion. But I think pound Kiwi is a real good buying opportunity for me. And that's another one I'll be looking for come tomorrow. Two more, Swissy yen, which I don't think I've ever traded a Swissy yen in a fashion like I'm about to describe to you. But what I see, and let's go wider again, and it's the same scenario. Take out that decoupling of, pardon me, the Swissy yen to the euro, and we see a market that is deceptively sideways, I've got to say, but it is a range. There's no question about that. And I suppose if we stick in here, you can see where I'm coming from. We've come off the bottom of that range and we've broken it decisively here with this bar. If you looked at that on a daily chart, that would look immense, but it is significant. Then we've gone sideways again, come back, failed to take out the low of that. And then we've broken out of that immediate range again. And now we've got a little bit of follow through on that. You can see I've got the weekly pivot there again for tomorrow. And Friday's bar on the daily chart is quite telling, in my humble opinion. In fact, I didn't want to see it. I'd much rather tomorrow come back to this level here, which is the weekly pivot. And then we can look to trade it long. But I think that chart that I just showed you does tell the story that we have broken two ranges and we're on the upside. This is the second of those breakouts, and the pullback here really does get me interested in trading this long. And I think the yen's got an issue. I don't know why. That's for the fundamentalist among us, but I think the yen's got an issue. And if I have a look at the relative strength chart that I use, which of course is the finviz.com. I've got no affiliation with it. Just have a look at it if you want. That's telling me that the Swissy has been among the strongest relative strength currencies against the dollar over, it doesn't matter what time frame you look at. If you look at the year, if you look at the quarter, if you look at the month, you look at the week, you look at the day, the Swissy comes up trumps over the yen on all of those time frames. And therefore, these breakouts are significant to me. And I think the Swissy yen is a buying proposition, but I do need to see that pullback. Obviously, I'm going to trade it from here. But that's another one for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I would have thought. And if we do that, then happy days. The last one I want to look at is Euro Pound.
These are false breakouts and move on. False base back, breakout, retest, continue.
Yep, pretty much ABCs.
Yep, brilliant. Yep,
and pretty much all the same. This one's a little bit different. And as I said before about the dollar, it's very, very difficult for me to keep saying week in, week out that the dollar has to retrace, and therefore I have to trade a potential reversal, which I'll still be looking for. Don't mind. I'll still be looking for those potential reversals, but it's getting a little bit boring. So I thought, let's go and have a look at something that's not as boring and probably a little bit more predictable, to be honest. Now, you've got to say, and I've got to absolutely go with it, that the euro is showing extreme strength over the last 3 or 4 weeks. There's no question about that. But I also think that the pound is lagging behind the euro. And I also see, or also think, that that will change. Why? Well, the charts are telling me that, basically. Let's go back to that euro pound chart. This is the monthly chart, and I have to go probably a little bit wider for you to see where I'm coming from. We have been, for the longest time, unable to get above this level that we currently are at, which is, and I can't even remember the level, to be honest, 90.81, let's say 90.80, let's say 91 even. It just can't get through here. Ever since it got below it, it just cannot get through here. One false break there that did find a close above there. And I'm going back, to 2008. I'm going back to global financial crisis. That's when that first hit. And we got below it, and we went below it, and stayed below it, and we're still below it. We cannot close above this level. Now, the monthly chart that is current, or the current monthly bar, has closed above it, which may or may not be significant, probably is significant. But it's failed to do that. for the longest time. And pardon me, any pullback underneath there, even the weekly pivot, is probably significant for me. But this level, where the weekly pivot is tomorrow, you can see where it is tomorrow, is absolutely significant. So I reckon if price can get underneath there and maybe underneath the rising channel and then pull back to it, gee, I reckon there's a good sell on there somewhere. Go to the daily chart, and that kind of exemplifies where we are at the moment. We've come off the top of that channel that I just spoke of, and for the life of me, we cannot get back above this level that we're currently at. It's the same as that monthly chart I just showed you. It's struggling. Look at all the high test bars sitting there. So I'm really looking forward tomorrow to a pullback underneath here and then a retest of that level. And then I'll be absolutely looking to play the short. I know it doesn't look that structurally correct on the way I normally trade, which is bottom, top, bottom, top. I think this is telling me a lot, this particular scenario here. We've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 days and unable to get a foothold above this level that we're currently at. So if we get back below it and retest it, gee, I reckon there's a short available there for us as well. So that's euro pound. That's probably as much as I want to go to, mate. I could have a look at the euro, Aussie, pound and say, gee whiz, they're overbought. Not necessarily the pound, but the others definitely overbought from a technical point of view. But are they? Because the dollars just keep falling, or the dollar just keeps falling, and I don't see any way back for it anytime soon. I don't know what it takes. I really don't. But gee, I'd like to see a pullback so that we can, or that I can get into the market. That'd be nice.
Quiet week for you last week, mate.
Sorry, mate.
Quiet week for you last week.
Very quiet week. Couple of losers and not much more, to be honest. Only 3 or 4. In fact, quite remarkably, I think I had 9 orders in the market and only 2 triggered.
Wow.
Yeah. That just shows you that everything's going in one direction.
Yeah, mate. Yeah, certainly it just popped out at the end of the week, didn't it? And these things can happen. Your month's still okay?
The month of July is still okay.
Good, mate. Good to hear. Mate, are you in next week or are you on holiday next week?
I'll be in all the TTRs. Ash is going to do the UK US sessions with all our newfound wonderful guests that we've got, and I'll be having the nights off. So I might be having a little bit of relaxing the nights by the fire.
Sounds. I didn't. Sorry, mate. When you say you'll be doing all the TTRs, do you mean you'll be doing the UK session but not the US session? Is that what you're saying?
No, sorry, but I'll be doing my normal Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday morning shows.
Oh, and shows, yep.
Yeah, and the normal TTR shows, not the YouTube,
US session,
and not the US session. No.
And we have the dynamic duo back together on Monday next week. Is that right? You've had both had.
Yeah, looking forward to that. Look, the last 2 weeks, the camaraderie and just the chit chat, if nothing else, that Ash and I do on a regular basis in the UK and the US session has been invaluable for I think both of us in terms of looking at the markets, understanding the markets a little bit more from a different perspective. And, that trading buddy thing that we speak of often has really helped us both. And I've missed that for the past 2 weeks. I'm looking forward to coming back in August and continuing that relationship.
Cheers, mate. It'll be good fun for all those that join in as well, mate. I know that show continues to be incredibly popular, and we are doing a little bit of an offer on Wednesday. We do a new product release. We'll be offering a different way of getting into that show as part of a little bit of a package with a bonus attached to it. So
awesome. Helen, I see your question there, and it was a bit like last week's question asking me to look at something else. But if I look at zinc, all I would see is, 4 little Native American. I'm not sure if 4 little Native Americans work. It's normally 3 for me. But I will have a look, and I'll talk about it later.
Look, Crystal, we did talk about doing trading buddies, but we're not doing trading buddies at this stage. Unfortunately, many of the people, and I think you included, people we were going to put in a trading buddies are already in groups of more than 2 or 3 people, and all we would do is end up adding more people to those groups. And while we're in favour of groups of 2 to 3 people, we're not in favour of groups of 5 and 6 and 10 and 20 and 30 and 40 and 50 and 60 and 70. Our experience is that those groups end incredibly badly for all involved, and that small groups work, and that while we have people in all these groups of 5, 10 and 15, adding people to them is just something we just can't do. We don't think it's going to help them long term. We don't think it's going to help anyone long term. I know you guys do, and we know you guys do, but we're pretty clear in our opinion on it. So we're not looking to do trading buddies right now. We'll keep an open mind on it. I'll be talking a bit on Wednesday, and we'll be having a team meeting on Wednesday. Oh, look, if that's the case, Crystal, let me drop me. Look, I know I owe you an email anyway, Crystal. So let me get back to you on Monday. I do appreciate your patience around the other stuff. We have been doing a bit of new stuff on the weekend, and it's just tied me up for the last few days. So I'll get back to you on Monday on the other stuff, and remind me to talk to you about this stuff. I'll see what I can do. Would like to help with that if I can at all. Rightio, guys, we still have got, as far as I can see, we still have Julian, Ainsley, Jeff in the room. Guys, any final thoughts before we wind her up?
Just give me a US dollar pullback. That's all. You can't see where it's coming from, but you know.
Look,
I think sometimes as traders, Jeff, we've got to remember that sometimes we talk and think as if we run the market, but actually people trading, people buying and selling goods run the market, and we provide liquidity to it. And right now, if you're a person who's used to buying and selling US dollars, you're getting a different price to what you're used to. And I expect there'll be some level of, it's a bit cheaper, there'll be a bit more buying, it'll put the price back up. So I expect to see a retracement on the US dollar. And, we'll look at it and we'll tell traders stories about why it happened. But people trading make these decisions, and people who haven't been able to buy US dollars at a certain price for a few years, when it gets to that price, get pretty excited when they've been paying more and it comes down. But they're more likely to transact and drive it back up a little bit. And I don't think they'll change the trend or anything. But let's be clear, they created the trend. It's them that did it.
Well, and then they're not changing it.
Great thing. Julian, you were talking about Hugh Hendry. Sorry, Jeff, what were you saying?
No, I was saying that it's no surprise to me what's happened. What is surprising is that it's been allowed to go so far without pullback. And, from a technical point of view only.
Yeah, and I think there's still a lot going on in the world. And, we've got the coronavirus stuff in the US at the moment. Plus, we've got the extra stimulus, which, as I say, more dollars there are, the less each one of them's worth. And that's what we're starting to see. You can only put so many
and
trillion.
It wasn't so long ago that the world was screaming out for them, right? They weren't any about.
Look, I remember Julian was coming on the show every week and saying there's a shortage of US dollars, there's a shortage of US dollars. And a couple of weeks he came on and said, look, it's just a different world. It's changed. They put enough US dollars. It's not out there all of a sudden. And, it's, and what we've seen as they've done that is we've seen the price change. There was a shortage of the US dollar, and, Trump wanted the US dollar up and he got it up. And now we've seen the monetary easing come in, and it started to go the other way quite quickly. And Helen was saying she watched the Hugh Hendry stuff the other day. He's one of the guys that Julian recommended last week. I haven't had a look at it, but if Julian's recommending it, it'll be well worth a look. Jeff, I reckon I'll talk to you next Sunday and hear stories of a win. Although when I think about it, next Sunday I will be on holiday in Mount Maunganui in the top of North Island, and I expect we haven't actually had a chat with the wife about the fact of how we're going to do that next week with 2 kids.
You'll work it out.
It'll work out. Guys, if you're looking to join the show next week, we will have Orlando and the Swing Trader. His focus group and his trade call group are getting more and more popular inside the organisation. Lots of guys asking to join, lots of guys on subscription who sign up for a month instead of on subscription renewing. Lots going on for him. So he'll be in to talk to us next Sunday. We will have Alexis to do fundamentals with us. We will have Ainsley to do gold and oil. We will have Jeff coming in to do some technical analysis. It's likely that Julian will pop in. We seem to see him for a couple of currency pairs each week as well. Hope you've enjoyed the show. Hope you're getting a lot out of it. In all honesty, guys, if you waited for the retracement to 18.05 and bought gold early this week and sold it at $1,900, you should have made enough money to be pretty.
Put your kids through private school, I think, Paul, is what you're trying to say.
Yeah, you should be pretty happy. And in all honesty, if you watched the show last week and Walk Old 1805 and sold at 1900 and you're not happy, I'm not sure we can beat it this week. I really aren't. But
Yeah,
you never know.
find
We'll see
someone
what luck
else.
brings as we go through. And on that note, guys, it's good night from me. Cheers, everyone. Thank you very much. We'll see you guys back next week. Ash will be in on Monday at 5 to 3 Singapore on the UK show. I think he's got Ainsley with him in the US session that night. I imagine we'll see a little bit of Lloyd in there and during the week there as well, possibly Orlando as well. Cheers, everyone. Have a great
Thanks.
trading week. Make good decisions.
Great
See you.
week. Bye.
Ciao.
See yous.